When it comes to choosing the top line treatment for your shoemaking project, you've got quite a few options. Let me talk you through a few of my favorites. I've got this top line treatment swatch book, I guess you could call it, which we made to show my shoemaking students what the different top line treatments are. And I thought I would just walk you through some of them so that you know what options are available to you. The first one, and probably the most popular one, is the folded top line. Now the folded top line is this one here, where you can see that the upper has been folded back on itself and then sandwiched in with the lining. This one is one of the most popular top line treatments and is especially used whenever we're making a shoe using a fabric, because we need to fold that top line so that we don't have fray on the edges. So here's a great example of a folded top line on a denim shoe, where you can see I've folded the whole edge around here of the denim, which is the upper, and sandwiched it in with the lining on the inside there. The next one on the list, which is another really common top line, is the raw edge. Now this one is so good if you're using a thicker leather, because sometimes when you do a folded edge, it can give you a little bit of extra bulk. So if you're wanting to reduce bulk, I always recommend you go with a raw edge. A raw edge is basically the leather cut raw and the lining cut raw and the two stitched together. You can only really do a raw edge when you're using leather because of course it doesn't fray. Here are two great examples where I've used a raw edge on the top line of these shoes. First, you can see I've done a raw edge here, and the reason for that was because this suede was quite a bit thicker than the leather I used here. So by using a raw edge top line, I'll minimize the bulk. Here's another great example of a raw edge, and the reason I used a raw edge on this boot is because this gold leather is quite thick, and again I wanted to reduce the bulk. Next on my list, I've got U-bound. Now the U-bound is where we've got the upper on one side, the lining on the other, but we've bound another piece of leather which traps both the upper and the lining inside. So here's a great example of a U-binding in action. Next on the list, we've got our bagged top line. Now this one's really easy. It's just the upper and the lining stitched together on the inside and then folded back on itself. I usually use a bagged top line when I'm doing a sneaker, and here's an example of it in action. Now the next top line treatment is sort of the same as the raw edge, but just with a twist. It's a raw edge, but cut with pinking shears. So you can see it's got this zigzag top line to it, and it's stitched just below where the zigzags are cut, trapping in the lining underneath. Now this type of top line is most commonly seen in a brogue. Now this last top line treatment I don't have an example for, unfortunately, but I think you'll know what I'm talking about. This again is the raw edge, but with a twist. This one has what we call piping sandwiched in between the upper and the lining, and it looks something like this. Now when deciding on which top line treatment is best for your project, remember you can mix and match. Sometimes you'll find a shoe that has a variety of different top lines all in the same design. So for example, in this shoe, I've got a U-bound top line around the back, and I've got a raw edge around the apron.